Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Best Episode Ever, the podcast wherein we talk about the shows of old that are still old on sometimes those cheap cable networks that are old and don't have any new stuff to show because they can't afford the new stuff, so that's all they show is what's old or older, and I'm feeling old because I can't find any more ways to say old. Sitting here in the basement bunker in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and some of you who are watching this on our fine YouTube feed can actually see the basement bunker behind me. We're trying it on YouTube this week, folks, so it may exist on YouTube. It may be embarrassing, so we may cut that off, but I am sitting here in Hamilton. My name is Anthony Marco.
Well, sitting here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and it's usually embarrassing anywhere I am. And I'm right now in my daughter's old bedroom. I'm Dave Bradbeck.
And I remember what I said before was really interesting, but for now I'll just say I'm in the garage. It's Bob Goyach.
In the garage. In the garage.
In the garage workshop.
He's in the garage.
I'm in the
car
garage
hole.
with Jesus.
Car hole.
Folks, if this is since we're on video now, if this is the first time you happen to be watching the show, we talk about old television shows, mostly from the 70s and 80s, but sometimes we reach further back than that. The key rule is we cannot talk about a show that started later than 1989.
That's right.
I set that arbitrary date at the beginning of the podcast, and it remains there. And the fact that 7 seasons in, we are still talking about shows we haven't talked about before, is a staggering accomplishment.
It's up there with Otto von Bismarck unifying Germany. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Wow, that's that. I'm not even going to go there.
No, exactly. We have 3 shows to talk to you about today, as we normally do. So, by the way, thank everybody for all the comments on the last episode. If you go to bestepisodeever.com, you can find a whole bunch of people who commented. That was the episode, and it's been a while. It's been about a month ago where we had Greg David on to talk about Simon and Simon. So go back and check that out because all these shows are old. They're always new.
They're evergreen to you. And
they're like love, soft as a thing that Barbra Streisand sang.
Soft as an easy chair.
I believe that's correct. You know, I thought that was what it was, but I thought the lyrics can't have been that bad.
They're they're easy like Sunday morning.
Wow.
Nice.
Just let you know we have 2 viewers.
Oh
wow.
Wait.
Yes.
Where can we see this? Can we see this, or only you?
I don't know. I don't know who the viewers are. I can just see that we have 2 viewers.
I think it's Candice Lepage has already commented on Facebook. Weird. So I think one of them is her.
There you go. So I believe, if I am not mistaken, that Dave, you are going to start us off this week.
Yes, it's a mini series about Otto Bismarck. No, I'm kidding.
And his adventures in the Saarland.
The Saarland.
And often playing korfball.
Otto von and when you played their team, your slogan was "Sink the Bismarcks."
Sink the Bismarcks, exactly.
The Bismarcks, a Canadian pop band in the '60s. They clap your hands.
Bismarcky, wasn't it? I believe.
Bismarcky Mark was huge. With
he had a funky bunch as well.
Is that a transformer? So, say hello to your mother.
Wow.
So the show I'm going to talk about today is a show that actually the weird thing, I didn't even know this, but it turns out that this show was is based on like a series of books from like the 40s, and I had no clue about that.
They had books back then?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Mein Kampf.
Otto von Bismarck was a big fan.
So, and it's in fact based on it's a story of a guy who gets hired as a butler for a family, and it's sort of a case of mistaken identity.
That's the pedantic way you walk through that sentence.
Yeah, well, I do most things, but we've met. I do most things pedantically.
It's Benson.
But it's not Benson because he's the opposite of black. And
wow.
He's unblack.
Oh, he's so not black. So the guy's name is Lynn Belvedere, but it seems like it might be a woman because Lynn can be can go both ways with the name, with the genders. And so they hire this guy, but they think it's a woman. Shows up, and it's Mr. Belvedere.
Wait a minute. This is Mrs. Doubtfire.
except he isn't dressed up like a woman.
No, it's a woman dressed like. Oh no, she's not dressed like a man. Okay, sorry.
No, it's just a guy with a name Lynn. like Lynn Swan.
There you go.
Right, see, so that's a guy can have a name Lynn, like Lynn Swan, for example, who played for the Steelers and was a USFL announcer. I love the USFL. So this show was on from 85 till 90. I really did. From 85 till 90. Look, first of all, this show had a cast of... There was one thing about this show that was good, and that's the fact that Bob Uecker was in the cast. And that's not that good because Bob Uecker can't act. But Bob Uecker's kind of funny. He's a one-trick pony.
Bob Uecker's funny when he's trying not to be funny.
Yeah, that's it's
And
sort of like
Bob Uecker speaks about himself in the third person all the time, doesn't he?
I don't think he does.
Well, he should though.
Does Bob Uecker speak about Bob Uecker in the third person?
Does Bob Goyetch speak about Bob Goyetch in the third person is a better question.
Well, all Bobs speak about ourselves in the third people.
Oh, indeed. Oh, that's actually in the Constitution. It's in the back in the small print. So Bob Uecker hosts. He's heads this family, and he's a sports writer. Later on, he's a sportscaster. Big stretch for Bob Uecker. And he, and his wife's gone back to school, gone to law school. So he's Bob Uecker ends up being this.
You can't say
guy.
just his first name, can you?
Yeah, I just like saying Bob.
Yeah,
You can't because it's Bob Uecker. You can't just say Bob because that could be you.
I can't stand play-by-play sports announcers who have to say somebody's full name every time they say their name. There's always one or two people in every league who every sportscaster has to say their full name every single time they say them.
Yeah, well, it depends.
Got in a fight with Chris Everett, where he was calling him Chris Everett.
Oh, Jim Rome.
Jim Rome. God, I hate that guy. Jim, if you're watching this, first of all, get a life. Second of all, I hate you. God, you're annoying. Stop saying people's last name every 2 sentences. Sorry, go on, Dave.
Yeah, he also he pauses. Jim Rome pauses.
Does he?
A lot. Have a take and do not suck. But so the thing about the show was it's all about special episodes and on a very special episode of. Because, in fact, the whole show is based on, at the end of the episode, Mr. Belvedere writes in his journal, a la Doogie Howser, or Otto Bismarck. Why do I keep doing that? So he writes in his journal, and he does a voiceover, and you hear it, And
so is it like, "Dear parents, I'm still a prisoner here.
Yes.
They think I'm a butler, but..."
It's like, "Dear Margaret Thatcher, please have them revoke my visa."
I can't wait to gun down the entire family.
Yeah, but so anyway, they're always learning something. So the show's but every fifth episode is a very special episode of.
Right.
Which makes it not very watchable. I remember watching this show. There was a time in the mid to late 80s, mid 80s, early 80s, I guess, where Bob Uecker was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was on Carson like every couple of weeks. Because Carson would take a shine give someone like, say, Pete Barbuti, and he would be on constantly. Well, it's the same way with Bob Uecker, and he would come on. He'd tell the same stories about how he led the American League and National League in passed balls in 1960, and is a career 200 hitter. And
as long as he's hitting above the Mendoza line, we're okay.
That's right. And so he was kind of funny about baseball, and he was in Major League, where he, of course, used the famous line, "just a bit outside." And he was in those Miller Lite ads when he talked about these. I must be in the front row, the Bob Uecker seats, that whole thing.
He was kind of like if you took somebody who was, he was like if Yogi Berra was trying to be funny.
Well, I mean, I actually found him funny because I like self-deprecating humor.
Yeah. No, he was funny, but what I'm saying is Yogi Berra tended to be funny almost all the time, but was often funny without trying to be funny. Whereas Bob Uecker was a bit of a ham.
Oh, a bit, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, in fact, he still, to this day, does the odd Milwaukee Brewers game.
Right.
He's still around. So, you'd watch it. I remember that when it first came out, I thought, maybe this will be funny. And about 5 minutes in, and I watched the pilot on YouTube, and it's atrocious. First of all, Bob Uecker just can't act.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's looking at the camera half the time going, what the fuck am I doing here? How can I... Is this a thing? How did I get a show? And the kids are those horrible 80s TV kids.
Oh, I hate them.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? And the wife is a law student.
I hate them.
I hate law students, and she's so seemingly younger than Bob Uecker, who's like 60. So everything about it is just weird. There's one good thing about it, boys, and it's the theme song.
Oh, do we get to
Leon
hear it
Redbone.
Let me see. I might be able to actually play this live in the podcast.
Oh, I thought you were actually going to perform it.
That would be as Leon Redbone. He's going to put on a hat, get a guitar with a hole in it. On YouTube.
Apparently there was a different theme song from season 1.
It was changed around quite a bit, but there's always the same theme. It's just done a little bit differently.
So you want to hear the season? Is it the season 1 one, the one you want to hear?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's see if this works. We've never done this before, folks. We have no idea what we're doing.
No.
Yeah, didn't work. Oh well.
Anthony's muted himself, so
he's muted himself to play the stuff. With the thing and what have you.
The thing with the so Dave, now you and I have to sing the theme. It's Mr. Belvedere. He's got a big head. He's got something.
He's got a big head. It's Mr. Belvedere. He's got a big head.
No.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
I can't say that I remember the theme. Anthony, you're still on mute.
I like how how your lower third says a very special episode. That's good.
Thank you. This is the weirdest thing ever because for the years of podcasting together we've been doing, we've never actually seen each other.
No, we never actually seen each other drink this much. Well, in person we have.
Oh, yeah. So, you know what? That actually played on my screen, but I don't think it played for any of you.
No, it did not.
Yes. So does that mean that it's recorded then, and we have to now pretend we heard it?
So I don't know if it will actually show up. I guess I'm betting it can't actually show up on a live. See, I think you can share it with the people who are in. It's possible to share it in, but I can always maybe add it later. I can especially add it later. You know what? Here's the thing: if you're watching this on YouTube, go search it on YouTube, okay, and then go watch it yourself. Yeah. But for the audio version of this podcast, I'll be dropping it in there at some point.
Yeah. And go get a hold of yourself. Do a little bit of work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really. I mean, you can't put this all on us.
No, I mean it's pathetic, really, that you would think that you could do this yourself.
Jeez.
Anyway, the show itself, not a good show. It ran in syndication forever. It eventually ended up on CTS in Canada. You know, the Crossroads television stations.
Yes.
You know, the Bible people.
Yeah, we're Christian, but we're not that Christian, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have like any of their what do you call it? Their entertainment programming was always holier than thou, wholesome stuff you don't want to watch. Except they ran the West Wing for a while. That's okay.
That's weird.
You know, it was on there. It's been on all kinds of places like that. It doesn't show up really anywhere because it really wasn't that good a show. It's something. It's 5 years.
But it's 6 seasons, I think.
Okay, 6. Maybe you're right.
Yeah. Like 117 episodes.
What kind of bullshit? How is that got 100? I'm going to sound like a real loser here, but how's that got 117 episodes and Firefly has 15?
Yeah.
Explain that shit.
What's weird, though, is the theme that we may have just heard was only performed for 116 episodes. There's one episode that doesn't have this theme.
That's right.
So is it a cold start? Is it a CSI?
It was a very special theme episode of Mr. Belvedere.
Maybe it was just they used a Seinfeld bass lick or whatever.
Seinfeld bass lick at the beginning. Boom, 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 and then Bob Uecker walks in and goes, "I must be in the front row." So I mean, it's a show that I think we probably all remember. But did any of you guys watch this show?
Not on purpose.
Yeah, that's my view too. Not on purpose. If it was on, I'd go, "Oh, that thing. Well, I don't feel like getting up off the couch. I've spent a day in the lab."
I saw the show. I didn't watch the show, and I'm trying to remember whether it was possible that my sister might have watched it for a period of time, and therefore it was on the TV, and I saw a few episodes, but not much, and not necessarily thinking that I liked much of what I watched.
I just have the feeling of the show. This is one of the stomach flu shows where the TV is just too far away, and it doesn't matter because I'm up anyways. I'm hurling, so I'll watch this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. There's if you go onto the episode listing, you can see the very special episodes
Yeah, that's basically all it is. It's all very special episodes.
But this was nominated for all kinds of awards and stuff. Best New Television Series, Best Young Supporting Actor, exceptional performance by somebody.
But look at the awards themselves. Look at which
I was
awards.
Say, what awards are those? Those are the shit awards?
The Young Artist Awards.
Yes, exactly.
What is that?
That's like the best episode ever awards.
That's right. That's like winning our bracket with the freaking theme songs a couple of years ago.
Well, it's an accolade bestowed by the Young Artists Association, interestingly enough, a non-profit organization founded in '78 to honor the excellence of youth performers and provide scholarships for young artists who may be physically and/or financially challenged.
Okay.
So,
well, they also won the first annual Montgomery Burns Awards for outstanding achievement in the field of excellence.
Yes, indeed.
And they won the Montgomery Ward episodes for wardrobe.
By the way, Robert Goulet plays a recurring character as himself in this show.
What's up with that?
I don't know, but I found the one episode. So listen to this. This is a fucking stellar episode right here. George has a near-death experience after he is electrocuted when the TV falls into the bathtub. Mr. Belvedere saves his life, but after he recovers, George quits his sports writing job and decides to do some things he always wanted to do, including taking up a career as a lounge singer. Worried about George's prospects, Mr. Belvedere has Robert Goulet stop by to give George some advice.
So Mr. Belvedere can just call in a chit with Robert Goulet.
Yes. Wow.
Speechless.
Well, that's tremendous.
Yeah. But apparently, and I don't know how many other episodes he appeared on, but he probably appeared once a year after that, because I guess once you establish the fact, once you've bought into the conceit that Mr. Belvedere can call in that chip from Robert Goulet, you might as well have him appear in multiple seasons after that.
It's kind of like looking at Freudian psychology. Once you buy the thing that everyone wants to have sex with their mother, the whole thing falls into place.
Wow.
You didn't think Mr. Belvedere was going to bring us there, did you? But no, it did.
No. So the ratings on this thing, not great.
Not important.
No, they were not great.
Like in season 2, it was 45th.
45th.
In season 3, it was 51st.
And there were only 3 channels. This is the 3-channel universe, too, boys.
It was behind the PCL Club, I think, for most years.
Listen to this little anecdote. At the end of the 86-87 season, ABC decided to cancel the show after 3 seasons, but negative feedback from fans of the series led the network to reverse its decision and order a 4th season.
Right.
In season 4, it fell to 64th place.
Well, that'll learn it.
That's John Scott making it to the All-Star game.
Right, making it to the All-Star game. That's exactly what that is.
Then in its 5th season, when there was no lower to go, it came back up to 47. Proving that the show didn't get better, but there were other shows that were a lot shittier.
Well, once the Indian Head test pattern card became incorrect politically, this is when the show boosted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen to this. The final episode to air before it was put on hiatus on December 30th, 1989, ranked 70 out of 83 shows.
Wow. What year was that? 80... So 90, right?
89-90, yeah. December 30th, 89 is when that stat was taken from.
Oh, God.
And the two-part...
Anything lower than that was probably like a rerun of Night Heat at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Anything lower than that was people performing in my basement.
Yeah, that's right. Was this podcast?
Yeah, exactly. And not by much. The two-part finale, which aired on July 1st and 8th, 1990, so in other words, after all the other series had finished, ranked 59th and 37th. The series finale ranked 59th and 37th.
It's obviously like Star Trek The Next Generation or Cheers or Seinfeld or MASH.
Yeah, I remember when they opened up Skydome so that they could show it on the big screen.
Yeah, they actually it was just a small classroom at U of T.
Wow.
It was actually a concession area. It was a concession area at Skydome.
That's right. It was just two poor El Salvadorian immigrants that didn't know any better. 7 hot dogs.
Wow.
2 poor Somali immigrants, and this guy stole their fucking cat. So that's a little inside for some of you.
So 4 words that will never go together are Mr. Belvedere binge watching.
No. Well, you can't. Look. It's not streaming anywhere.
Can you blame it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying I'm displeased.
Have you searched to see if it's streaming anywhere?
Yeah, I have.
Because this, to me, this would be a fine Crackle pickup.
Crackle. Yeah, this would be one of those. This would be one of those things where you have to watch 5 commercials to get credit.
Yes.
Watch it. Except this would be like they'd give you credit for watching this crap.
I believe it's playing on the Tor network. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the dark net.
To be fair, if you're watching this show, you want to be anonymous.
The Silk Road is lined with Mr. Belvedere.
And title.
Wow. Wow. Okay. By the way, I don't know if you guys mentioned, but we didn't hear it because I'm going to have to put the theme in there anyway. Theme, of course, if you recognize the voice, was Leon Redbone.
Leon Redbone, yeah.
Leon Redbone.
Redbone.
So moving from Mr. Belvedere, apparently a horrible show that got 6 seasons and 117 episodes.
Not unlike this podcast, but kids.
but you know what, kids? Kids today.
Go figure.
So Bob, I hope you're ready to take us up a notch in terms of quality and in terms of just solid writing.
You want to see some solid writing? If you're looking at the screen right now, you're going to see some solid writing.
Wow, that's the way we do our green screen in Chiron.
I don't do the lower third. I do the entire screen.
That's called the Dumontaine Chiron.
You know, I look deep inside my heart and I say, what bigger tripe can I come up with than Dave just feasted on us? and here's a show like Whiz Kids, or as Stewie says, Whiz Kids.
Whiz Kids.
Whiz Kids.
Whiz.
This is a show that should have been right in my wheelhouse. It appealed to a more, we used to call them geeks, I think nerds, I don't know what the hell the word is today, but let's just say more technically inclined, science-y type technology people. And I just pulled the mic out of the stand. And this should have worked. This was about quote-unquote hacker kids or whatever. Remember, this is Whiz Kids. It came out in '83.
Sure.
Aired for a whopping 18 episodes. And by June '84, that thing
still
was
beating Firefly, by the way, again.
It was a 60-minute show, which is strange because I don't remember any episode having as much content for 60 minutes. But the thing is it's for 10th graders, which is pretty much where I think I was or close to that in '83.
Okay.
And so remember '83? It was '83 the year War Games came out.
Same era, maybe a little earlier.
Around there.
Right. So if you remember War Games was a movie where a kid with a keyboard not really connected to anything sets off a nuclear war. So
to be fair, he had mad Ferris Bueller skills when he did that, though.
He did.
Well, see, look, and I got a wireless keyboard right here, so I just be careful.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's for kids, and basically they're geeks, they're nerds, they're computer inclined when that used to be really a thing before Facebook. This show was nominated as the best new television series in 1983.
Yeah, but again, what award was that?
No, but it just tells you in '83. These are the dark days of the 3-channel universe, my friends.
Oh yeah, totally.
This is when Fox said.
There's a reason why we got more channels after this.
After this, Fox said, "Really, we can do worse than this?" No. So basically, here it is, and stop me if you've heard this. By day, they're grade 10 students.
What?
By night, which for a grade 10 student apparently in '83 was between 5 and 7 p.m., they solve crimes.
As you do.
By night, between the evening news and Solid Gold.
This is true. One thing that really bothered me, and I remember specifically, I don't know if did you guys watch this show?
I remember this show existing, but I don't remember anything else other than the fact that it existed.
Okay, to this day, there is a scene of one of these 18 episodes where it shows the kids in a high school. Picture the high school from Back to the Future, right?
Sure.
American in urban. They go outside.
We almost lost Bob there.
Yeah, speed test.
No, I'm not taking any. So they're in that high school kind of front there's the big steps, and then there's grass on either side because it's an American high school. In Canada, there'd be snow on each side. And they sit down in the grass under this tree, and what do? They're going to discuss politics? No, they all pull out their fucking Casio MT30 keyboards or whatever the fuck they were, and they all play what sounds like Kraftwerk meets Depeche Mode. And it was like, oh my god! And I just remember instantly wanting to unlearn anything I knew about playing keyboards or music as a whole. And that scene is still in my mind. There's been a lot of therapy. I'm okay now, but I can still get worked up over it. Basically, the idea was that it would be technically correct. That was the premise of the show, that it would be technically correct. If you were like me, computer-oriented in the early 80s, you knew this was full of shit.
Right. So what were they showing for being technically correct? That's the question.
Well, the thing is, the IT crowd or the IT crowd has the background, and there's a Commodore PET, and I'm sorry.
You're before known as the IT crowd.
No, people call it that, Ants. Don't mock Bob.
Both. I'm going regional, unspecific here. They had the right equipment. You saw the Z80 machines and the computers of the time. But the thing is that when words would appear on the screen, it would make that printer noise, which is still a thing. I don't. Why am I hearing a dot matrix printer when green characters are appearing on a screen?
It's like in House of Cards when people text and they still goes tick 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 tick.
Yeah. Why is
an Android phone or iPhone?
Why does the Foley artist have an Oki Data printer sitting beside him?
That's exactly Oki Data. Wow, good call. That's a pretty good call.
Like that, that's a good call. I haven't heard Oki Data in a long time.
Nor have I.
One of the things that gave me hope for this show was that of course, these are for unabashed youth.
Unabashed youth is the
Unabashed Youth.
That was a cover band I was in.
Yeah,
the Unabashed Youth.
Did a lot of Sonic Youth.
Alt ska band.
Alt ska.
And Max Gale was the guiding adult around this.
Yes.
You may remember Max Gale from such shows as fucking Barney Miller.
That was the porn version, right? Fucking Barney Miller.
It was like being John Malkovich, but a whole other take.
Wow.
Wow, and it's just Hal Linden bent over a desk. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry.
Rest in peace, Abe Vigoda.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
How do I get that image out of my head now?
Max Gale playing his character name, Llewellyn Farley.
Yeah, he's a reporter, right? So there's a reporter and a teacher, and they're guiding the kids, and what they're really doing is they're getting free labor off these kids because I need to hack the system to find out about this crime. And so the kids go.
So it's like Mr. Robot, really.
Yeah. And it's just a bit too wrong. It really is.
It's all just a bit too wrong.
It's a bit too wrong. The kids are complaining about technology. Like if you watch, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't have a good example. So let's go for Grey's Anatomy. And you hear the medical terms being spewed about by people who are obviously not doctors. You figure at least somebody's checking into the medical terms and they'll be right. Well, these kids would spew out, at the time, jargon of the tech sector, and 5 1/4-inch floppy disks and all this stuff. But most of it was wrong, and it bothered me. And then I realized where maybe I'm not like everybody else. And then the show got killed after 18 episodes, and I said, well, maybe I am like everybody else. They do all the typical things that you did in the 80s with a computer. War dialing. Do you know what war dialing is, Anth?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So basically your computer modem dials, area code 00001, and then 2 until it hits, obviously, porn chat lines. And they talked about hexadecimal code and stuff like this. Brute force password cracking, which of course in the 80s was just saying, hey, what's your password? And all this stuff. So there was the kind of stuff that they had, like, there was an Apple II in a scene. There was a TRS-80 in the scene.
Sure.
So the technology of the time was there, just didn't fit what they were doing with it.
There was the Coleco Atom.
Yeah.
In television with the mythical keyboard that never came out.
Yes.
That's right. They had one, right?
By the way, the episode titles on this make it sound far more serious a show than it actually is.
I think it tried to be. I really think it tried to be, and I didn't go back and watch this. I can't do that. But I think it tried to be really like a Simon and Simon for tech kids or something. You know, it really tried to be like validating technology kids, and it didn't.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. This is a show that, if you ask anybody, a show Whiz Kids with 4 tweens or teens who are, hip on computers, and you ask them, how long is this show? 99% of people say, well, it's a half-hour show.
Yeah.
And they'd be wrong.
They'd be wrong. It was actually about 53 minutes too long. But if we look at some of the episode titles, Programmed for Murder is the opener. I think Star Trek did that. Fatal Error, Deadly Access, Candidate for Murder, A Chip Off the Old Block.
Like, these sound like Columbo episodes.
Yeah. Then not season 2, but late in season 1, they go into The Lollipop Gang Strikes Back.
Wait, okay, wow. Now that's kind of porny.
The Whiz Kids help investigate a case involving a gang of senior citizens robbing small markets. Now, how do you tie that back into technology when even today, in 2016, senior citizens can't use computers without calling their grandchildren?
It's kind of like us setting up this hangout tonight.
QRM.
Okay, so listen to this. So episode 3, Deadly Access, has Jameson Parker appearing in a Simon and Simon crossover.
There we go.
That's great.
Simon and Simon crossover.
It's not great. It's not great. It explains how far Simon and Simon had come over.
You know what this needs? This needs a heart-to-heart crossover with some people who are Monaco rich.
Wow. Ooh. In the very first episode, Jonathan Banks appears.
Oh, nice.
Guest appearance. Richard Anderson appears a couple of different times.
Oscar Goldman.
Exactly. So you do have a couple of unique appearances in here by people who probably regretted it after the fact. David Grohl, remember him?
Isn't he the Foo Fighters, right? Yeah.
Yeah, not Dave Grohl. David Grohl, Rhoda's husband.
Oh yeah, that guy.
He was in tons of stuff.
Oh my God! Yeah. Okay.
Most known as Rhoda's husband, I think.
The Jewishest looking actor in sitcoms in the 70s and
80s. Yeah. So
that was what he played.
By the way, I don't know. The little anecdote here: Montreal Gazette writer Mike Boone.
Now, Mike Boone, by the way, just to phrase this, used to be. Well, he used to be a TV columnist for the Montreal Gazette.
Yeah.
He's a great columnist now for that reports on the Montreal Canadiens.
No, I read his column whenever it comes out. It's
about last night, and the About Last Night column is a must-read for a Habs fan online now.
So he gave the series premiere its one positive review, writing, "To enjoy Whiz Kids, and I think a lot of people will, viewers will have to suspend disbelief and buy the show's rather far-out premise. The Whiz Kids are a likable bunch, even when they are casually invading databanks to access private information. Although it was a murder story, the debut episode was admirably devoid of real violence, and viewers of all ages who are intrigued by computers are going to love watching Ralph do his stuff. When you consider the types of TV programs aimed at young viewers in recent seasons, Whiz Kids represents a giant leap forward in intelligence and sophistication. It is one of the better shows of the new season."
Well, it's good that he switched over to writing about the Habs. Yes. His later review said, "I can't believe Gallagher, Eller, and Galchenyuk are hurt." So
his later review said, "It's only 2 words: shit sandwich."
So, anyways, I don't know if it's available anywhere. I'm not going to do that work.
I looked. It's not.
Good. It's it was awarded some Youth and Film Awards. Best Young Actor.
No, it was never awarded. They were nominated.
They were nominated. Okay, sorry, yeah. And the DVD box set of Whiz Kids, by the way, is available on 5.25-inch floppy disks.
Of course it is.
But it's actually not actual video. You can watch the episodes in ASCII text rendered.
That's right.
That would be awesome. I'd pay for that, actually.
It's all on microfiche for you to enjoy.
By the way,
microfiche.
Are you guys familiar with the HBO show Eastbound and Down?
No.
Yeah, sure.
Minor baseball series. It's actually a funny series. Whiz Kids is frequently seen on a Mexican television throughout the second season of HBO series Eastbound and Down.
Okay. They could probably just get that to put on, right?
Exactly.
It didn't cost them much, you know. It's like how whenever you watch The Sopranos, by the way, whenever they're watching a football game, they're watching the CFL.
Yeah.
And you can even hear Chris Cuthbert from TSN yell, "What a great catch!" And Tony's like, "I can't believe the Giants." And I keep wanting like Ralph Ziffredder to go, "It's the Calgary Stampeders, Tone."
The thing about Chris Cuthbert is 20 years ago, his enthusiasm was a lot higher pitched. That's all I'm saying.
Here comes Bore!
It's like, ooh!
I love how Whiz Kids has evolved into Chris Cuthbert.
Into Chris Cuthbert impressions. That's how good that show was.
Yes. That's how good we are. So that's Whiz Kids. Go check it out.
What about the theme song? Should we listen to the theme song?
Sure.
Which means
I haven't heard it, but I'm assuming it's a keyboardy, super synthy.
It's probably like
thing.
I haven't heard it either. But
it's probably the same as or inspired by a CBC political show from the early 70s.
Yes.
Or that
between
song,
that and Popcorn.
Yeah. Popcorn, melted butter, hot butter.
So those of you who are watching the video aren't going to hear anything, and those of you listening are going to hear the theme song right now.
I think this video thing does is it kills the fourth wall.
You're a fourth wall.
You're a fourth wall. Yeah.
Fourth wall. Get your fourth wall right here, buddy.
I don't.
Hey, read between the lines. So I'm going to hopefully up it a little bit here. I'm going to talk about a show from the 1980s as well. A very stylized show. A show that I actually really enjoyed when I watched it. It only lasted 2 seasons, and I was quite surprised because it seemed to do pretty well. And I never really followed at the time. I didn't care about ratings or anything like that. But I remember watching this right from day one. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing, so it's a show by Michael Mann, who was famous at the time for Miami Vice. Because Miami Vice was one of the biggest shows for about 5 or 6 years. I mean, you couldn't get away from Miami Vice.
Lord knows I tried.
Yes. There was a show that I started watching purely by accident, I think, and it lasted 2 seasons, 44 episodes, a show called Crime Story, created by Michael Mann and largely starring Dennis Farina in probably his first really well-known role.
Is that the theme song, Where Do I Begin? Is that the one with Andy Williams sang it?
No, but you will know the theme song because it is a well-known song.
Okay. Sorry.
Dennis Farina stars as Lieutenant Mike Dorello. And
he's from Chicago. He talks like he likes he talks like Dennis Franz or something.
Talks a bit like that, Lieutenant Mike Dorello and mobster Ray Luca, played by Anthony Dennison. And basically the idea is there was a 2-hour premiere movie which apparently showed in theaters somewhere.
Yeah, it was a theatrical release of it, which is they used to do that, right, with TV shows sometimes, like Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers. So what the hell?
What the hell? I mean, you might as well. Especially, show it in a few theaters in Chicago. If you shot it around Chicago, what the heck? You might as well.
Right, yeah, and of course there also used to be more theaters because the repertory cinemas, things like that, right?
So I watched the 2-hour series premiere about a week ago, and I put it this way: it's Michael Mann, so necessarily it's stylized, necessarily it's a little bit dated, but I still kind of like the show. I still like the attitude that Farina's character, Ray Luca's character, neither here nor there. I mean, he starts off as kind of like a small-time player in the Chicago mob and kind of builds his way up throughout the first season. It does move pretty quickly along there. The Chicago crime boss is played by John Polito, who's been in tons of stuff. Great actor.
Yeah, totally.
He always appears. He appeared in a lot of Coen Brothers stuff. But in addition to Dennis Farina, one of the other cops who's on the squad is played by Bill Smitrovich, who's really good. He played Danny Krychek. This is a show that I really, really liked when it was on, and it was pretty cool. I will say though, over the entire first season, this is an early show that really didn't play like a procedural at all. Like, this was a long story arc before long story arcs were a thing back in 1986. You didn't really have it. Ray Sharkey also appeared in it as a federal prosecutor. I don't want to go over the entire, but basically over the course of the first season, you have this build-up between Torello and Luca, who are fighting against each other. The one's always trying to bust the other. You've got a special crimes force, all that stuff. Goes through the season. Pretty cool episodes. You got cops who are like beating the crap out of people.
You like that, Deanne?
Well, you know what? It kind of works.
So the guy Luca, does he live upstairs from you?
He lives on the second floor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I've seen him before.
Yeah. He has troubles late at night.
Some kind of trouble.
Some kind of fight.
Yeah.
Don't ask me where it was, though. So halfway through the season, and I don't know, this is like kind of a big shift for the middle of a first season. They do a shift out to Las Vegas. So basically, the guy who's running this entire organization is moving his organization out to Vegas. So they move out to Vegas, and Luca goes out with them. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, apparently a Chicago cop who's on a major crimes division gets to follow him out there.
This happens on TV shows all the time.
Yes.
Right? Like we talked about McLeod, how McLeod somehow gets seconded to the NYPD
exactly.
for Rangers.
So Torello gets essentially heads up the new federal organized crime strike force.
Ooh, that sounds made up.
Mob activities in Vegas. Now here's the thing: the end of season 1, and I still remember this to this day, and I haven't seen this episode in ages. But this is how it ends. I'll read you the clip because it is pretty out there for a season cliffhanger.
It's great. Yeah, I remember this. It's wonderful. Please do tell.
Luca tries to force casino owner Nat Martino to sell out his interest, but Martino's refusal threatens a mob war.
Wait a minute.
Wiseboard orders Luca to make peace, but instead the hot-headed Luca murders Martino. Torello and his men had set up the killing as somehow a failed trap, and a gunfight ensues. Luca flees through the streets of Vegas, he and Torello shooting each other several times before being rescued by Polly. The wounded Luca wakes up in an isolated desert shack thinking he is safe, only to discover that Talia has brought them to a restricted government nuclear test area.
Yep.
The season ends with an A-bomb being exploded on the site, presumably obliterating Luca and Talia as they attempt to escape.
Well,
this is actually the
Godfather, isn't it? I mean,
in a lot of respects, this reminds me of the Nuketown map in Modern Warfare 2.
Yes. Now, here's the thing. Because Michael Mann could pull quite a bit of cred because of Miami Vice, there were some incredible guest appearances.
Yeah, the list of guest stars is really nice.
So in the pilot, David Caruso appears, and this is really for David
Are you
Caruso.
okay? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
If I was someone else, there would be a Transformer. No.
A Transformer.
So how's your mother?
Julia Roberts appears in season 1.
Wow.
Kevin Spacey, Deborah Harry, Gary Sinise, Ving Rhames, Christian Slater, Michael Rooker, Lily Taylor, Pam Grier, Miles Davis.
Pam Grier played football, didn't he?
I think that's Rosie Greer.
Rosie Greer.
Okay,
yes.
sorry.
Miles Davis and Dexter Gordon appear in an episode. Stanley Tucci. David Hyde Pierce makes an appearance in season 2. Laura San Giacomo, Billy Zane,
Billy Van,
Dennis Haysbert, Eric Bogosian has a recurring character as the attorney for the mob outfit. Michael Madsen. Michael Madsen. Vince Gallo, Armin Shimmerman, otherwise known as Quark.
Yes.
David Soul plays a doctor who marries Mike Torello's ex-wife.
Who's beating his wife?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that part out loud?
Time Magazine, for a series that is only 2 seasons long, Time Magazine that ranked Crime Stories as one of the best television programs of '86 and of the '80s as a whole. In an '88 book, there was a book that talked about the top 10 police TV series of all time, and Crime Story made that list as well.
Yeah, the thing is, though, that's not the regular Time. That's a cooking magazine, Time, Thyme.
It's in Parsley Sage.
It's Parsley Sage Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yes. No, the show was good. I remember this show because it was always raining.
Yes.
The show had a lot of rain. Even when they went to Vegas, it was raining, which always struck me as I didn't think it ever rained in Vegas. Also, it doesn't rain in California because the girls always warn you it pours. But there was that. Did I just do an O.C. Smith poll? Don't read.
No, I think that was actually John. It was at Hammond, something okay. Hammond, Albert Hammond.
I'm thinking it don't rain in Indianapolis and.
Yes. Yeah. That was Albert Hammond. It never rains in Southern California.
Okay. Also, it was gritty. It had a. I looked a little. It's on Hulu, so I checked it out today. It's the 60s. If it was done today, it would be. It's got a kind of a Mad Men sensibility for a crime show. If you follow me, okay. So, they're trying to be authentic, but it's the 80s, so they aren't as good at being authentic as they are now.
Right. Well, everything in the 80s was fake.
Especially Whiz Kids and Mr. Belvedere. But, yeah, so it was a well-acted show. It was a well-put-together show. I remember watching it and liking it and finding it much more intense. And also it had story arcs, which was not a thing that much back then.
Yeah. In terms of its story arcs, what it reminded me of was those seasons of Wise Guy.
Yeah, I was going to say Wise Guy is probably the closest thing to it, though Wise Guy I think is a much better show.
I think Wise Guy is a much better show because it's because for all of the, like I say, there's not a better word that I can talk about than stylized. It's a Michael Mann show, and you can tell it's a Michael Mann show. Like if you took the stylized parts of Miami Vice and didn't necessarily lay them on as thick, that's what they kind of did to Crime Story. And so there was these stylized elements to it in the way that the things were shot and how light was used and how colors were used and all of that stuff. So now the theme song I really, really liked at the time because I was also young enough to think to myself that it was hip for a certain period of time to listen to 50s and 60s music. And what they basically did was they resurrected the Del Shannon hit Runaway as the theme song for this. However,
that's one of my all-time favorite songs by them. Just saying.
It's a great song. It's an awesome song. However, it was a new version. They actually got Del Shannon to sing a new version and change the lyrics. So, they changed the. I think the second verse, watching all the years go by, some live and others die, was the line I always remember.
I love it.
So Del Shannon sings a new version. In the first season, Todd Rundgren is the musical director of the series. And in the second season, Al Cooper takes over as musical director.
That's not bad pedigree right there.
It's not bad. Early episodes played music of the era, because this was kind of set back a little bit, back in the kind of 60s.
Yeah, it's sort of early mid-60s, right? Is that
yeah.
I got that right? Yeah.
And so Todd Rundgren kind of kept to that, and Al Cooper thought, you know what, I'm going to use songs from after if I think they fit, and so he kind of wandered a bit from that as well. So we'll play that at the end of the podcast, the special nice. Del Shannon version from Crime Story. So there you go. They talk about the fact that the influence that it had. So Crime Story, they call it Wise Guy an imitator. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember the timelines, but if it was an imitator, I still thought it was a better show.
Oh, Wise Guy was. Well, we talked about Wise Guy either early this season or I think it was late last. Wise Guy is one of the finest TV shows in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Like it's in my top 10.
Yeah.
This isn't. Is this was it an imitator? Perhaps, but they did it better.
Yeah.
And
now it could be the person that's typing this up on the Wikipedia is maybe too much of a fan of the show, right? Because they talk about the fact that Scorsese directed and produced his movie Casino, loosely basing it on the elements of Crime Story.
No, that's not true. I don't know that it's wrong. Yeah. I'm just gonna say it's not true.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've got to think, what, Martin Scorsese didn't watch a Michael Mann television series and say, I got to do a movie like that.
Yeah. Scorsese.
He also based a lot of his work on Whiz Kids.
Yes. And Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah, Mr. Belvedere. Yeah, most of the episodes of, most of your TV and movies, most of your Shakespeare is based on Mr. Belvedere.
So the 2-hour premiere, was watched by over 30 million viewers.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive, pretty big.
Yeah.
It was scheduled to follow Miami Vice on Friday nights. and it got a bunch of great viewers there. But then they moved the show to Tuesdays at 10 opposite ABC's Moonlighting in season 2.
By the way, I just want to get this out there. Does anybody actually like Moonlighting?
Moonlighting was okay.
It was cool because it broke the fourth wall, right? That's what Moonlighting was cool about. And nobody else.
Moonlighting was clever for the time.
It was.
Okay, fine. I guess I was already jaded.
In retrospect, the cleverness of it doesn't necessarily hold up, I don't think. But at the time, it was very clever.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I will take your word.
Yes. So there you go. Mr. Belvedere, Whiz Kids, and Crime Story. One of these things don't look like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong.
One of these things was actually a quality television show.
And that is Whiz Kids.
Obviously, I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Belvedere.
You know, if we go this year to WizCon...
WizCon? Wow.
I almost spit Pernell live on video all over this monitor.
Oh. I think
that's the only reason we're doing this on video, so that we can get a spit take at some point.
WizCon, yes.
WizCon, no.
WizCon, no.
Dave, why don't you tell people where they can find you when you're not here talking old television?
You can find me apparently on YouTube. You can find me at broken-area.com, davebroadbeck.com, and mvh.ca, and I don't know, spitandtwitches.com. What about you, Bob?
Well, you can find me pretty much here or at mmvh.ca, and pretty much nowhere else.
And nowhere else.
And
so, yes.
You can find all of my other podcasts at anthonymarco.com. You can find me on Twitter at anthonymarco, and you can find all the past episodes of this show at bestepisodeever.com. Seriously, you can dig back into the archives, and because we talk about shows that haven't been on for decades in some cases, you ain't missing much. The only thing that might happen is we might talk about people who are now dead as though they were alive, but really, in the grand scheme of things, the show's been dead for years, so you can deal with the tense issue when you want to deal with it. You can find Mr. Belvedere. Wow.
Find Mr. Belvedere
on Twitter.
Mr. Belvedere. Oh, there's a Twitter account we need to open.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably been done. Yes.
Former Mr. Belvedere.
Wesley.
Mr. Belvedere impersonator.
You can find Best Episode Ever on Twitter at BestEpEver. So feel free to get in touch with us. You can comment at the blog underneath the episode. You can listen there. Or you can go into iTunes. I think it's still there. I don't use iTunes anymore. So so much for our engagement matrix. I guess that's fallen apart. I have no idea. I haven't checked iTunes for these feeds for years. So if people are subscribing in iTunes, let us know.
It still works.
I have no.
Still works because I use iTunes, so it still works. I think it's a loaded piece of shit, but I still use it.
I heard it was all delayed because whenever somebody listens, it's all like shows from the early 80s. Oh, wait.
Never mind. I guess that's it, folks. We'll see you next time when we go into syndication. Until then, may all of your best surfing be channel surfing. And I'm going to stop the broadcast now. Wait, Dave, look at the screen and do a freeze frame.
Okay. Ah!